Alright, today we're going to start work on this. This is a Chevy S10. The complaint is that the front brakes are not doing anything and that the back brakes are grabbing. Alright, back brakes do feel like they're grabbing. $35 miles an hour. I don't know, it don't feel bad. Well, I suppose the first thing we're going to have to do, I was worried that maybe the rotors were warped or something, but I don't feel that at all. I think the first thing we're going to wind up doing though is we're going to pull the back wheels off. Alright, the first thing we have to do on S10s and a lot of General Motors, they have these plastic caps on top of the lug nuts holding the center cap on. So you just take those off to reveal the lug nuts underneath. Now because I have it, I'm using an air compressor with an impact gun. But you would normally do this with a lug wrench or something equivalent, a breaker bar or something. Both back wheels are off the ground. And see, I can turn that real easy. So I can assure you the brakes are not too tight. The front may not be working right, but the back is definitely not too tight. Now that, the pads are brand new. There's no scoring. And the adjusters are in right. So this side is in good shape. It's awful loose. Say the pads were just put on a couple of weeks ago rather. So there's no leaking. Everything's in place. It is building a lot more dust than I think it should for that period of time. And the adjusters are in good shape. They're in the right place. So, but look at that. Already brand new pads. You see that? It's cracked. This one over here is okay. There's no leakage around the wheel cylinders. And it's got brand new axle seals in it. And this is the adjuster. And you see it's in place there. Under the spring. Everything there is in place. And it's seated. So, for what reason has that happened? This one here is the front pad. Now you can see in the sunlight how that's all the wear that it's showing is just a few scuff marks. So there's no reason for these to be this way. But this is why you buy warranties. So that when you if something like this happens, a defective part, you can take it back. I want to show you a little bit about the tools before we get too far. Number one is this one. This is to put on these, and these hold the brake shoe to the backing plate. And you see how it's cut up, how it's like a cone shape on the inside. And when you put it on, you'll twist it, and it will twist to allow that slot. See how that's slotted? There's a pin that comes through it that's shaped like that, and when you turn it sideways, it locks in place. You can see the indentions there where it's going to lock into. Now there's two of those, one long and one short. See the difference in height? This tool is the lifesaver tool. This is to install the springs onto the brake shoes. You see the end, how this end is caved in, it's got a groove there. That hooks hold of a pole that the spring goes on. You hook the spring onto this side here, and you pull it up, and it just pulls the spring right up to where it needs to be. The other side is for removing the springs. Alright, here's the brake shoes. First thing you're going to want to notice is that there are two different length shoes. We're going to even them up here, and you'll see at the top, one's short and one's long. The long one always goes to the back. So that's the front of the truck. This is the way they'll go. Alright, first off, the big brake shoe. This is the emergency brake, and it fits into this hole just like that. And now you can see it's hooked to it. Now this pin that you saw hanging here, it'll be hard to do this and explain exactly what I'm doing. It will go through that hole in the middle of the pad. We'll put the adjuster in that hole with a pin coming through it. Then we use this tool and the short spring. Goes in the little cup. And we push it on. Oh, come on. You gotta get it. Now, doing this without the right tools is a pain. I mean, it's a pain doing it with the right tools, but it's a real pain to do it without them. Alright, so this is what it'll look like. So the adjusting arm is here, hanging down to the bottom. You see how the pin went in, and then we turned it to lock it, and it's not in all the way. Let's do a better job of that. Yeah, it did not fall in place. Now it's in place. See there? Alright. Up here is how the emergency brake lever, which is that gold colored lever that's behind it, comes into play. And it'll fit right up against against there. You can take this off, you can see sort of how it's going to fit in there. When all the springs are on, it'll pull in. Alright, so now we need the spring that goes under this, just like that. We need to put the top half of this spring on. Now see, you could put it on this way and that would be wrong. But this way, the loop will go up and it will allow that to clear. So if you put it the other way, it's going to interfere with the star nut. So it's got to go up top. And it'll get just like that. Let's see here. We'll hook it into the bottom hole here first. We'll pull it apart, and it is in sort of, it's in place, kind of. This fell out. Now you see there, the adjuster got in behind it, so we don't want that. There we go. Now we put the pin on the other side through. We hold it. We take the long spring with a cap on it, put it over it, turn it the right way. Yeah, there's a reason people get a lot more money for doing drum brakes, I believe, because they are a bit of a pain. Did that lock in? It did. Good. All right. So now, see, the adjuster just fell out, which is not cool. Yeah, we'll open it up just a little bit so it's got a little tension on it. Alright, now we have to put the emergency brake bar in. This is the emergency brake bar. See how it's grooved on one side? It's got the grooves there. The other side does not. This is where the spring goes. It's in there. Now you see this side here is real wide though. The gap between the forks is wide. The gap on this side is narrow. So the wide side is going to go on the back side where the emergency brake lever is. So it slides in here, and then in the same spot on the other side, and it'll hold in. So when you pull the emergency brake, this gold lever will pull forward, it will push on this bar, and it will spread the brakes apart. That's what sets your emergency brake. Now we're ready to put the springs on. This one has 2 springs and 1 long bracket. The long bracket goes in this way. It's like a big long bar. Hooks onto the brake adjuster arm. and it goes over this stud. Now what you may have to do is pull this down when you get your brake pad seated right, brake shoe seated. Alright, we're going to pull that out. See if it won't go in a little bit easier. What is going on here? Trying to hold everything together at one time is a pain. There. Now then, this should just hook here and then around here. Now, the long spring, it will go opposite this bar. Hooks here. Take this side of the tool. Got to put it under the spring and hook this piece here. Again, up, over, and it's hooked. The next spring is this one. Goes in a hole on this side, right there. And we're going to hook it on this piece here. The bar we just put in for the adjuster. And it should go just like that. Now, everything needs to find its seat. Now this spring here that started giving us a little trouble, we're going to go ahead and put it in now. Just push it up and slide it onto the pad. Make sure it's straight, not binding on anything. And you'll find there is a little place just for it. There. And now it's in. And there's why it didn't seat right. Alright, so now we have to take this one off because it didn't seat right. Of course, you always have one or two. And this spring here came out of place. And then we're going to hook that again. Try putting it on again. There. Now, let's see here. Make sure they're seated up top in this area right here. Alright, so now that's a pain. So there's the way the spring hooks into that hole. Hooks around here. That spring goes to there. That long rod comes down, hooks here. There's the tension spring that holds the spring onto the backing plate. This spring keeps the arm up So when it comes down, it'll help push it up. The blue spring is not touching the star wheel. There's the other retaining spring that holds the shoe down to the backing plate. This here's a piece that gave me a little bit of trouble getting in. That's the emergency brake arm, and you see it is attached on this side as well. I think you can see it anyway. Alright, now we have to adjust it. And the adjusting is pretty easy. Okay, so to adjust the brakes like this with the drums off. Now if you've got the drums on, there's a hole in the back side of your backing plate. This one has never been punched out, but you would have to punch that out and adjust it with what's called an adjusting spoon. We're not going to have to do that. Okay, first you put the drum on the car. You feel to see how much play is in it going front to back this way, and there's a good bit of play there. So we're going to pull the brake adjuster off the wheel, and we're going to turn it to make it start spreading out right here. That will in turn make things tighter up here. Now that's getting pretty close, so it ain't going to take much more here. You see there? Now I'm having a hard time getting it to go on. Now that's just... Now, see, that's just a little too tight. So, we're going to loosen it up just a little bit. About a turn. That's still just a touch too tight. Oh yeah, that's good right there. But I'm going to leave it off, so when I do the other side, I won't be feeling this side. I'll only feel the one. Alright, so I didn't show you this side going back together because it goes on the same exact way and it adjusts the same exact way the other one did. So we're ready to put the wheels back on. What we're going to do is we're going to use a torque wrench to put the final torque on the lug nuts instead of using an impact gun. An impact gun can break these off. Most of you aren't going to have an impact gun anyway, or a lot of you will not have an impact gun. So using a torque wrench to tighten them, always the safest bet. But what we're going to do is we're going to lower it down so that the tire touches the ground. That'll hold the wheel still so we can tighten the lug nuts. We're also going to tighten it in a star pattern. Alright, now remember, here's the hubcap. Now, I always like to put it on. These don't give you any specific way of doing it, right? There's nothing on here that says this way versus this way. I always like to look at the emblem and make it go towards the valve stem. That's just me. Now remember, the hubcaps are held on with these plastic lug caps. So, now what I found when I took them off, this side had all Getting tongue-tied. This side had all 5 of the lug caps. The other side, it only had 3. So what we're going to do is we're moving 1 from this side to the other side to give the hubcap that much more chance of being able to stay on. Now these you don't want to over tighten. They just need to be snugged up, and you'll feel them. You'll feel them in it got a little catch. I don't know if you can see it or not, but there's a little indention. And on the back side of the cap, there's an indention. And once you get right there, you see they don't have to be on tight. You can get them on too tight if you ain't careful. And that's when they fall off. It's when they're too tight. So, that's all there is to it. Alright, so we got the brakes done, and we did do the front brakes. There'll be a video on that coming up. Learned a lot by making this video, and I know it's lousy and you can't see half the things I was doing. But we'll get better with the next ones, with the next few, and we'll try to make better videos and give you better help. So for now, front brake video will be coming up before long, and a few other things. So thanks for watching, and have a blessed day.